So great. Good afternoon, everyone. So today's topic is basically insights on supply chain post COVID-19. So mostly so we will start from the basics. I understand that people who are interested in supply chain, people who are interested in supply chain consulting are a part of the audience. So I'm going to not go so deep into the basics, but start with a definition for supply chain. And then quickly explain you when people are talking about COVID-19 has negatively impacted the supply chain, but no one tells what got impacted. So probably I'll touch base on what really got negatively impacted in the supply chain, and then move towards talking about what are those impact, what are the areas are actually getting some major changes because of COVID-19, and then explain them more with examples, and in the due course, while I explain all these things, I'll also share my experience on each of those topics. Okay, so I'm sure it will be it is already a long day for most of you with a lot of lectures. I'm not sure, but I'll try to keep it as exciting as possible. Okay, and end we'll also have some time so that you can ask your questions, and I would be able to share my experience or related information to that. Okay, thank you. So let's get it started. So the first thing what we are going to do is we are going to define the supply chain in less than 5 minutes. I know it is pretty difficult to do that, but let me try to do that. So if you really see about supply chain, there are some key stakeholders within the supply chain. So put it in very layman's term, we have customer, who's the buyer of the project. You can also call them as consumer. Whenever they are the end user of a project, the right term to use is consumer, but most commonly used term is customer. Then you have the retailer, who is the face for the customer, where the customer buys the products from. And then you have the distribution channel. I put it as product distribution rather than telling as distributor, because in few sectors we call them as a dealer. In few sectors there are almost multiple levels of distribution available, so we call it as the product distribution. And then you have the manufacturer who actually converts the raw material into the finished product, whichever product it could be. And then we have the supplier, who is responsible for providing the raw material to the manufacturer, and in most cases there are multiple suppliers to a manufacturer who then converts the products into the finished product. So as simple as this, right? So these are all the key stakeholders or key functions within the supply chain. But this entire engine, if I call this as the supplier engine, the engine doesn't start unless you trigger it. Okay, so that trigger comes from the demand planning. One of the most understated role, but this is one of the most crucial part within the supply chain, which actually ignites the engine. The entire supply chain runs basis the output from demand planning. So the role of demand planning is basically to forecast what is going to sell. It even starts from who's going to be my customer, what he would be interested. So finally come up with a demand forecast, which goes as an input to the next important team, which is the supply planning. So based on the demand forecast, the supply planning is going to then decide, hey, when I have to get all the different or raw materials to the manufacturing facility, and they also decide when to start the production. So basically purchase orders goes to the supplier, a production order goes to the manufacturer. Then the supplier, based on the purchase order, which tells which raw material, how much is required, when it is required, he is going to supply the raw material to the manufacturer. And production order is the start of manufacturing. Depending on your lead times for manufacturing and distribution, the production orders are generated. Same like how purchase orders are generated depending on the lead time of the product to the manufacturer. So once basis that, the RM is then converted into FG, and then your distribution starts from the sales orders from retailers. So through the product distribution, the products goes to the retailer, the customer places the order, and then the product reaches the customer. Obviously there is this portion, there is a change. If it's an online, the product reaches the customer. If it's an offline, the customer moves to the store. So this explains the crux of what supply chain is. Okay, so I'm sure most of you, since you're already learning this, I'm sure this is a pretty straightforward one for you. The reason why I've explained this, because subsequently whatever I'm going to explain, everything starts from this single slide, the definition of the supply chain. Now when all the reports related to supply chain tells COVID-19 has negatively impacted the supply chain, it has actually put to a halt, what they actually mean, what has happened really. So first and foremost thing, we need to keep aside some of the temporary issues caused by COVID-19, like people couldn't move in. So obviously in a manufacturing floor, if people are not able to come in, you obviously not able to produce, right? But keeping aside that, if you really talk about the first impact of COVID, what we couldn't predict started right from your planning. Because on your planning stage, you never prepared the supply chain for a pandemic. So it started over there. And then comes the supplies. In the supplies, there is a heavy dependency on a single source of supply in most cases, which actually impacted negatively, right? Manufacturing, as I've told you, the manufacturing layouts, the way we convert the products into the FG, the raw material to the finished products, it is not designed for a pandemic. Though there are so many standards available, the manufacturing shop floors are not equipped enough for social distancing, right from the personal hygiene to the layouts and everything. So they also had a problem. And then comes the distribution channel. So in the distribution, moment your vehicles couldn't move in, the moment your vehicles couldn't cross the borders, there's complete disaster over there as well. As a on top of all these things, we don't have the best of technologies available for the proper communication, which actually became more fragile because of the COVID. In a nutshell, the COVID-19 has actually surfaced many weak links within the complete supply chain. That's the reason it took a lot of time to actually get it back to. So now it's going to take at least another 2 to 3 quarters for us to get back to where we were at the end of 2019 itself. Okay. So with that, what we are going to do today, we are not going to discuss about the negative impact of COVID-19 more. That's it. This is a very a gist of what happened when you say in terms of impact of COVID-19. What we are going to see today and focus more is the positive impact of COVID-19, because we heard enough in terms of what is the negative impact of COVID-19. But if you ask me as a supply chain person, there is a lot of positive impact of COVID-19 more than the negative impact from the supply chain standpoint. You should not take it like people are dying on one side. How can Alvis say it is a positive impact? So I'm keeping that aside purely from a supply chain standpoint. Why I say it is as a positive impact, we are going to see one by one. So today I'm going to touch base on 4 key areas: customer behavior, channel inventory, global e-commerce, and global sourcing. These are the 4 areas we are going to touch base today. Let me start with the first one in terms of customer behavior. So what we are going to see is there is a positive change in customer behavior, which actually is now fueling the transformation of supply chain, specifically logistics as well. So when I say positive change, why this change has come in? So previously, if you see any industry, whenever it is trying to adopt to some new technologies, though the technology comes with a lot of benefits, there are not a lot of bias to it. Because like take for example logistics. Okay, now there is a logistics player coming up with a lot of new technologies. You can find out where your product is, you can do a lot of analytics with data. Everything is great. End of the day, what will decide whether that logistics provider gets a contract or not is the cost. Not in all the cases, but in most cases, cost drives everything. So the positive behavior comes in the form of adoption to the technology, which is great, positive from a supply chain standpoint. Again, I'm going to take some very realistic examples to explain you deeper in terms of such that you understand how the customer behavior changes. Okay, I'll be talking about this in the subsequent slides. Second one, channel inventory. What happened now? Previously, we talked about just in time. We talked about a vendor managed inventory. Why we were being always doing this? We don't want to keep the inventory near to us. We just want very lean inventory. Only when it is required, I need the product. This is how always the businesses have been behaving. Now what happened, people want to keep stock of products. Now it actually is posing 2 different things. One, inventory is no more a waste, because lean sometimes tells inventory is a waste, right? So inventory is no more a waste because people now see that as a competitive edge, because you are going to keep it. There is now there is no need of uncertainty that whether my raw materials will reach me on time, whether I have enough finished goods to reach my customer. So all these things puts a huge expectation on inventory. Now people wants to keep the inventory closer to them. But if inventory is not a waste, then what is a waste? I am going to talk about it in the coming slides related to channel inventory. Third one is global e-commerce. So we are seeing now offline markets are really struggling. But if you really see, the offline markets loss is actually the gain of online market. And already global e-commerce is showing a trend of more than 2x growth from what was predicted almost a year or 2 years before. That is a great sign from an online online commerce standpoint. So here as well, I am going to explain what would be the impact on supply chain basis this change in the industry. The last one is global sourcing. Now you all understood that the single source of supply, the cost the maximum of issue, because moment there is a disruption on one area, we couldn't even come out of, and moment your source of supply is gone, you can't, the entire engine will come to a halt. So currently all the risk management related initiatives which are happening is moving towards alternate sourcing. This is quite basic, everyone knows it, but I am going to take a larger picture in terms of not just sourcing. From a supply chain standpoint, what are all the other things we need to take care of? That also I will be touch base in the session today. So let's start with the first one, which is customer behavior. So let me put a statement here. Same customer behaves differently based on sector, product, time, and so on. The list goes on. You may be surprised. How come on a same constraint, a same customer behaves? Indirectly, it's telling I behave different way for different product. It may be surprising to most of you. And specifically, people who wants to get into consulting, people who wants to get into supply chain design from scratch, people who want to get into supply chain strategy, this understanding is absolutely critical. Anyone who's interested in building something from scratch or optimization of a supply chain, to explain this such that you won't forget this for the rest of your career. You won't forget what I'm going to say. I'm going to pick two examples, okay, both operating in a last mile logistics. To explain last mile logistics, it is the final leg of delivery towards the customer is called as the last mile logistics. So the first product I am going to talk about is an iPhone, or consider that as a mobile phone. So think about, you ordered a product in Amazon, you ordered a phone, and now last mile means basically moment your order is reached, someone is going to come and they are going to hand over the product to you, right? So now let me put some questions to you. So you ordered the mobile phone, and Amazon is asking you, hey, you need to wait for around 4 to 5 days for a delivery. Is it fine? Most cases, yes. He said, okay, not an issue. I can wait for 4 to 5 days to get a delivery. Okay, great. The day prior to the delivery, someone is calling you and then telling, tomorrow we have slots only available in the evening time. Is it fine? Can I deliver it? So you said, okay, no problem. I'll be at home. Please get it delivered. Okay. And the next day, actually, there was some delay in delivery. Someone called you and then said, we are really apologize. We couldn't deliver it today, but definitely tomorrow we will get it delivered. And since it is a delay from Amazon, we are also giving you a 500 rupees worth of voucher. You'll be very happy. Okay, great. No problem. Thank you for your customer service. You'll be very happy. And the next day you got the phone. You are very comfortable. You say Amazon is the best. You tell your friends and you are very happy about it. Now the same scenario, I'm going to put it into the next product, which is a chicken biryani. Okay, one of the fast seller. That's the reason I picked up the chicken biryani. So now, and whoever is non-vegetarian, I'm really sorry, you can now assume this picture as a veg biryani. Okay, so now think about the same situation over here. First of all, after placing an order, there is no option for this food delivery supply chain to wait for 5 days. There is no option for picking a slot. First and foremost thing, the slot in which food delivery happens itself is very, very limited, maximum 3 to 4 hours. Now think about, I'll give one specific scenario related to this. Assume you are on your, it's 12 p.m. One lecture has to get end by around 12:30 p.m. You're already so hungry. That lecture extended by another 30 minutes. So it became around 1 p.m. You are now too hungry. Now the lecture actually again extended by another 30 minutes. Now it has become 1:30. Finally the lecture got over, and let's assume the lecture is also not so great. It was like you got a severe headache as well now. Okay, not specific to any of your professors. In general, this is just with an assumption. Okay, so now 1 p.m. you are taking the phone and you're ordering a food. Probably you're calling Swiggy to tell, hey, I want a plate of food. And now they committed, yes, we are going to dispatch it now for you. Yes, we have taken the order. Okay. Now what happens? So now once you have placed your order, sorry, you didn't call, you placed an order on Swiggy app. After 30 minutes, you are becoming restless. You are going to immediately pick up the call and then calling Swiggy customer service and then tell, hey, I ordered the food. Where is my food? And if they tell, actually there is a delay, can you wait for additional 1 hour? Not even a day, just 1 hour. How would you feel? Already you are hungry. You had a very bad day. Your lecture got extended, and all those pain, you are going to put it onto the customer service executive and then shout at your loud voice and tell, I want my food now. And if the executive offers you a coupon that you need to wait, you are not going to listen to it, because it is, you are absolutely need that plate of food now. And if for some reason that order got cancelled, you are going to get completely dissatisfied, and you are going to probably go to social media, talk bad about the service, and probably tag all the friends in your network to that post telling, hey, I had a bad experience. I think this clearly explains the changes in behavior of customer depending on a product. And if we fail to understand this, the supply chain cannot be successful. So now COVID-19, since I've actually told you already the customer behavior is changing, it is very, very important we go back and rethink about what is the expectation from my customer and how he or she is going to behave on an ideal scenario, on some exceptions as well. This is the key takeaway one. Now the second question what you may ask is, how will I know my customers then? What are the ways I can know my customer? So though there are multiple tools available, I am going to focus on one tool which you can use, and specifically post-COVID scenario, now even existing businesses have started to rethink, redo about, it's like a reset button to understand what my customers really need. Okay, so for this as well, I am going to give you a quick example. Assume that you are planning to book a stay in a hotel wherever you are, if you're in a different city from where you live, and you have some specific requirements. So what you actually did is you called up the hotel manager and you are telling, hey, I'm planning for a 5-day stay at your property. Can you just help me with following things? You ask about a specific restaurant and the manager says yes. You talked about whether I have a covered parking specifically I need. He said yes, yes, it is available. And then you talked about some of the nearby areas, like, hey, do you have a gym? You said yes, it is available. So like that, you asked a set of questions and everything, he said everything is available, and you went ahead and booked that hotel. And then on that day, you are actually going and checking into the hotel, and you said hi to the manager. You just checked in, and then you got into your room, and then you're realizing there are no towels kept, and you are very disappointed. No towels are there. You call the manager and ask him, hey, I think you forgot to keep the towels. And then if the manager replies back to you, sir, actually towels are not part of your package. If you want towels, I can send it, but it comes at an additional cost. How would you feel? So you got very angry. It's like, come on, towels you have, that is a basic requirement. You have to give it to me. This is very bad service. So the manager says, sir, whatever you asked, I said yes, it is available. You asked for a specific restaurant, it is available. You asked for gym, it is available. You asked for a sightseeing. So whatever commitment I have given you, I have actually got it done. Then how can you say it is a dissatisfaction? Though in reality, no one is going to argue with you like that. But it's quite right? Whatever he has given, he has promised. But you are going to deeply dissatisfied. The reason is, you are assuming if I am getting into a hotel, I will definitely have water, I will have a geyser, I will have towels provided, but you won't explicitly talk about it. Those things are called the basic requirements. So actually, if you plot all those things, this is actually called a Kano model. In a Kano model, if you see these basic requirements, these basic requirements are called the basic attributes. The customer will never talk about it, but the customer will expect. So in any exercise you are running to understand your customers, your challenge comes in the points which your customer won't talk about it, but they expect it. If some of your basic attributes are missed out in your offering, that is part of your supply chain, then it will lead to a heavy dissatisfaction. If you see the degree of achievement, that's the reason your graph is like this. Now, similar way, the second set is basically the performance attributes. So performance attributes, more the better. Like for example, a typical example is you are buying a two-wheeler. The committed mileage is say 40, but you are getting 50, you are more happy. If you got 55, you got more happy. So these are all performance attributes. The last one is delight attribute. This is where you didn't even expect it, but something happened that wows the customer. That becomes a delight attributes. And this model is called the Kano model. So this is very, very important. You can use Kano model and there are tons of other tools. But the important point here is basic attributes. Some of the biggest surveys, secondary market research, primary research on customers, all these research or some of the bigger organizations fail because they failed to map that basic requirements, which is actually the customer won't tell you, but they will expect it to be the part of the product. Okay, so with that, let me move forward. So this would clearly you in terms of how you can know your customers. This is an example where this is done for a recent logistics company. This is post-COVID scenario. So we have just completed this. One very, very important, I'm not going to spend more time explaining this. I want to just show you a picture in terms of how, when you're using a Kano on a real life scenario, how things will work out is what I want to show to you. A very, very important point here. Can you see this TMS? TMS is a transport management system. Previously, transport management system is a delight. Now, in the Kano, the delight has moved to basic. You understood what I'm trying to tell you? What that means is, it is not like static. It is not like a static scenario where I have done a Kano model. I understood my customers like a year before. Now it's the same. It keeps changing. To this as well, I'm going to give you one simple example. Assume 10 years before you check into a hotel, Wi-Fi is actually kind of a delight, right? No one expects like a full connectivity should be there. And right, so ideally Wi-Fi was on the delight attribute. Now you check into a hotel. I think even before you get the keys, moment you enter the hotel, you are going to ask the manager, hey, can you just give me the Wi-Fi password? And if the manager says, sir, we don't have free Wi-Fi, in that case, how would you feel? Moment you hear that, you are going to see like, you don't have Wi-Fi in your hotel? What is this? Yeah, come on. You call yourself as a 4-star hotel, but all those conversations will come behind that. What that means? The Wi-Fi which was in the delight has actually moved into the basic attribute, such that so no one is going to ask for a Wi-Fi, but they are going to expect it. So these two are very, very important. Takeaway number one, you need to know your customers, and Kano model is an absolutely fantastic tool to do that. Second one, you can't think like, okay, I did a Kano last year, everything is clear. It's not the case. You have to be clear that the attributes can switch places quite drastically. So this is one of the biggest thing in COVID-19. Post COVID-19, most of these requirements, that is if you see as a Kano model for any sector, any industry, it has undergone a tremendous transformation. And one such example is what I've kept on the slide is on the logistics. So now more and more organizations are going and revisiting what their customers want. If they fail to do that, then you can relate this to any a failure related case study. A very good example would be a Nokia. Now everything now you relate back, you will get it completely why a Cano model, and knowing your customers is very, very important. Okay, so let's move on to the second one. So the second one is inventory. So inventory is no more a waste, which is very clear. Then what is a waste is excess inventory. Now, this is where if anyone has an interest on analytics, okay, inventory is always an evergreen field even as an overall supply chain. An organization which has an optimum inventory at a supply chain level with the same level of constraints is going to have a huge benefit over competition in terms of a very, very healthy bottom line. Also, the customer service fills. Okay. So what we are telling, inventory is no more a waste, but an excess inventory. So what is an excess inventory? For example, let me draw, if you are seeing my screen, now I am drawing a line here. I am asking you a question, whether this is long or short. So you can't tell it. You can't tell whether it is long or short because it is just a line. You can't tell whether it is long or short. Now the same line, now I am going to add one more line and then ask you, now tell me whether this line is long or short. Now it is very easy. You will tell this line is shorter than this one. This is what the answer you will give. So what that means, you need a reference. Similar way, to tell that it is an excess inventory, the step one is to identify what is the right inventory in my supply chain channel. It could be across any storage point. Okay. This is where analytics plays a huge role. Even pre-COVID, inventory is one of the hot topic in terms of analytics. All the analyticians you talk about, they would have definitely done a demand forecasting. They would have definitely done a inventory optimization. So, right. So what I'm trying to say, this topic is picking up a real sweet spot where if you're planning to do a supply chain analytics career, you need to focus more and more on inventory, because now customers want more and more inventory. Moment you know what is going to happen, I'll tell you next 2 years what is going to happen. Now people are in a kind of a urge telling, hey, give me excess, not a problem, give me excess, because I don't want to now wait, because last few months the problem is always shortages, right? What is going to happen? This decision of without a proper plan, you are building your stash in terms of inventory is going to backfire. That is where they are going to look for more and more analyticians to actually streamline this in the overall supply chain. So this is going to be one hot topic from a supply chain analytics standpoint. And for anyone who wants to specifically need more about supply chain analytics, please get into Supply Chain Way channel. There are multiple material onboarded like past 2 months. Multiple sessions have been done on that. Those supply chain analytics career related videos will help you a lot. Okay. So coming back to the topic. So I am going to give you a sequence by which you can arrive at this inventory optimization. The step one is go-to-market strategy. You may be thinking, we just talked about inventory. How come we are starting from a go-to-market strategy, right? Nowhere there is a link, but all these dots are connected. Unless you have a very good go-to-market strategy which talks about each and every supply chain decision, it is very difficult to take an inventory decision. The biggest blunder which happens in the industry is we leave all the supply chain design, try to optimize an inventory. Inventory optimization decision taken in isolation is actually going towards a disaster. That's the reason we should start from go-to-market strategy. In the go-to-market strategy, there are so many nuances you will do. One of the very, very important and a very, very exciting topic is network strategy. Think about this. If you're planning to get into supply chain consulting, and for your information, these two are one of the top services from our supply chain strategy vertical. One of the exciting area. I'll tell you how the business case would be. It could be like a multinational company wants to get into, say, India or any other country. Okay, for example, let's take it as India. Now they have a plan of what is the top line, what is the kind of demand is going to be, and what is the kind of business they are going to have for next 5 years. That's it. A single line statement. So you know product category, what is the vision of the country. The rest, everything comes under your go-to-market strategy and network strategy. So what you would do to take care of the supply and demand situation, you set up the complete supply chain right from scratch. You name any decision in terms of your manufacturing locations, storage locations, supplier related decisions, the way of replenishment from suppliers, whether it is going to be whether it's going to be a direct delivery, whether it's going to be a just in time, whether it's going to be a pull, whether all these decisions are part of it. Not just that, after the manufacturing, where and all you should have your distribution pockets. Can I do online? Can I do offline? Can I do an omni channel? What are the pros and cons? Completely everything comes under these two topics. N number of tools are available. So if you're an analytician, you want to get a flavor of supply chain strategy as well, you can work on these two specific subjects, which would be of a great value addition to your career. Anyone interested in knowing more about it, you can ask your questions at the end of the session. And also you can reach me probably post the session as well if you're really keen to explore these areas. Third one is sales and operations planning process. The one industry which nailed this is FMCG. But rest of the industries, seriously, it is a long way to go. People call it as SNOP process, but what happens, SNOP becomes into a document and it get archived. No one refers it. There are a few industries where FMCG is definitely is a benchmark. Second one is automotive. These two industries actually use SNOP processes to the fullest. Okay, so this is the sequence: go to market strategy, network strategy, SNOP process, and the last comes your inventory modeling. This is where you as an analytician can also play a huge role in terms of optimizing the inventory. And it is quite exciting because there is only a thin line. There is not best scenario. If you are keeping 100% if you are keeping 100% inventory, your service fill is going to be high, but your carrying cost is going to be high as well. Now, how we are going to optimize in such a way, that is the challenge which is posed there. Okay, let me move forward. The next one, global e-commerce. The statement what I'm going to tell is pretty strong. Ignoring e-commerce is ignoring customers. Now, it is a reality. It is not just e-commerce. Now, you can't ignore it at all. Think about the sectors. The laptop in which I am just taking this session, normally what we'll do, we will walk into a shop, we will see the models and we'll take it. Now I got it completely an online experience because even an offline retailer started coming up with an online experience such that they don't want to lose customers. What is happening? The global e-commerce is expected to reach around $6 trillion in next few years, out of which 1/4 of that is around 1.5 trillion is going to be cross-border sale. That is people from one country buying from another country. Okay, I said this in many sessions because this is very important. So what it means, already if you see the trends, if you closely follow the market and sites like IBF and everything, all the online businesses, be it anything, it is related to healthcare, it's general retail, is it related to food delivery, you pick anything, every online business now have a spike in their volumes. Okay, now this is now said, all the offline players now have to adapt to this online such that they don't lose customers, which actually makes the way omni-channel is the way forward. Now, pre-COVID itself, if you read some of my articles, omni-channel is the key. I have been talked about in multiple seminars about this, as well as this is one service we are giving for the past 3 years. And every year we set up omni-channels for multiple sectors across multiple countries. What that means, post-COVID scenario, now omni-channel is the way forward. There is no second thoughts on it. So I'm going to quickly explain you what is an omni-channel and how to set it up as well. First one is a marketplace. So this is a marketplace. You can immediately think of Snapdeal. Okay. What happens here? All the inventory which is shown on the website is not owned by the online retailer. It is just shown there. Actually, the products will be with only the suppliers. When an order comes on the site, the logistics is going to go pick up the product. That is the primary transportation, right? Or you can call it as a first mile. After pickup, they are going to deliver it to the customer, which is your last mile. But there is absolutely no inventory liability. Okay. The second one is buy and sell. Flipkart, when they started, their considerable amount of their business is buy and sell, or you can call it as an inventory based model. What happens? This is like a traditional retailer. What an offline retailer does, he buys the products, stocks the products, customer walks in and buys the products and go, right? This is a complete two transactions. One transaction between the retailer and the manufacturer or a distributor. Second is transaction between customer and the retailer. The buy and sell model, what Flipkart followed, is absolutely the same. The difference is the customers are not walking in. Actually, Flipkart delivers the product to the customer. But the inventory liability was with Flipkart. Then they slowly reduce their dependency on buy and sell because the inventory liability is so huge, okay, that it is very difficult to scale up. Like for example, let's take one simple example so that you understand the difference between marketplace and buy and sell. So water bottles, there are 10 different colors of water bottles, okay, and both this marketplace and buy and sell site has shown this 10 different colors of water bottles, okay. Unfortunately, only 2 colors of this are fast sellers. In a marketplace model, the online retailer doesn't have any liability. He doesn't have to even worry about it. But in a buy and sell, he already bought stocks for the 10. He has no other option but to salvage it. This is a difference. But what is the benefit of a buy and sell? And what was the problem in marketplaces? When an order is received, your supplier has committed that I am holding 10 pieces of bottles is available. But when you are going to pick up, he is telling, I'm really sorry, I've already sold it off, I have no stock. This can lead to dissatisfaction, right? But in buy and sell, you no need to worry about it. If you are maintaining your inventory accuracy well, you can be 100% sure the product is with me. So you are not depending on the seller. So you understood the positives on both this. In buy and sell, the positive is inventory is with me, I no need to worry about it. In marketplace, I don't have to worry about inventory at all because I am just listing. Now combining these two becomes the hybrid model, which picked up the positive from the both. That is the fulfillment by online retailer. So if you are talking about FBA, Amazon FBA, what it means is, or you can ask yourself a question, if Amazon and all are operating as a marketplace, why are they building that much big warehouses? The answer is the hybrid. In the hybrid, what they do is, the inventory is on the books of the seller, but physically the Amazon stores that in their warehouse. This is called, they call that as a fulfillment by Amazon. So inventory is on the books of seller, but physically it is with Amazon. So what that means? I get the benefit of a marketplace because I don't own the inventory. If it's not selling, I don't have to worry about it. In buy and sell, inventory is with you, so you no need to worry about it. Same thing on hybrid, because physically I am holding the stock. I no need to worry about the sellers defaulting that product is available or not. So that is the hybrid. The next level is the Omni Channel. So when I say next level, I am talking about the complexity, nothing else. Okay. In an Omni Channel means an existing offline player getting into online. Okay. So for example, it could be Reliance coming in, it could be Aditya Birla coming in, it could be Tata's coming inside. What that means, they are already touching most of the pin codes of India. They have the physical infrastructure. Now they are making online as an additional customer acquisition and distribution strategy. This is what they are doing. So not easy as it says, because there is a culture, there is a business model already is part of like a decade-old organizations. Now you are getting a separate strategy bring in. It should merge together. Okay, so in Omni Channel will be a success only when you don't isolate both. You should not tell like this is offline, this is an online vertical. If you are telling like that, then it is not a Omni Channel. It is called multi-channel. Multi-channel, each channel doesn't gel well. So what happens currently, most of the people call themselves as Omni Channel, but actually they are a multi-channel. There is no fun in doing a multi-channel unless, yes, obviously you take your products, but you will be wasting a lot of resources. There is a huge scope for consolidation. There is a huge scope of optimization when a multi-channel becomes omni-channel. What that means, you can have online, you can have offline stores, whatever ways you want to reach the customer, you can do it. But all the different distribution channels seamlessly integrate into your supply chain and they work as a single supply chain. I just restated, work as a single supply chain, then it is called as an Omni Channel. And we specialize in setting up Omni Channel, one of the exciting places to work. The reason is, for example, recently we're working on 3 projects where we are making an offline player as a 2 projects we are making an offline player get into online, and 1 online player setting up physical stores. The reason is, you need to consider all the good things, infrastructure, performance data, pick up everything, analyze, and then design a completely different supply chain and transition. So there is a huge change management. You get experience of end-to-end supply chain design, and this transition will make you learn and master all the nuances within supply chain for that particular sector or an industry which we are talking about. Okay, so this is moment there is a pickup in global e-commerce. Now obviously more and more companies are now making omni-channel, at least a multi-channel to start with, so they can't ignore the e-commerce. So there are a lot of projects, lot of initiatives happening on this area. The last one I have is global sourcing. With that, then I will open up for questions. So I'm going to take a very different opinion here. For example, global sourcing, everyone knows it, like single source of supply. You talk to any buyer, they know it, but we took things for granted. We didn't listen to our risk analysis tools, etc. So basically, COVID-19 has just surfaced the weakness of our supply chain. As simple as that. And very important thing, single source is one such weakness. If you remember the first slide I talked about, I told you the complete supply chain, there were issues. Now this is the time you need to completely redesign, revisit your supply chain. It may look painful, but if organization, because think about the change, your customers' behavior changed, your pandemic shown your weaknesses completely on your supply chain. Every pockets of your supply chain had weakness. Think about these two. If now you are not revisiting, reshaping your supply chain and building for the future, you won't be in business. I think that now every organization have realized it, and that's the reason more and more reshaping the supply chains in different form. There is one way of telling that is digitizing my supply chain, or digitalization of supply chain, digitalization of logistics, knowing my customers better. These are the different names by which the organizations are running this. And I'll tell you, as a supply chain guy, it is a very, very exciting time to be part of supply chain, because this is the time you can, some of the business cases you always wanted to do, this is the time we are getting it. Okay, so now I'll explain you how this happens. Start from the basics. So think about this, like I ran hundreds of projects, but very handful of projects I get a chance to start from the SCOR model. I am sure you would have learnt about the SCOR model, right? So now this year already we are working on 4 projects. What that means, everyone realized that I need to completely take a fresh paper and redesign my supply chain, and it starts from the basics, which is the SCOR model. Once you're done with that, we can do with the supply chain risk analysis. The best tool to actually simulate your supply chain is a value stream mapping. I would, anyone who wants to get into supply chain operations excellence, supply chain problem solving roles, consulting roles, please master this tool. Okay, and because of this huge requirement and the benefit of this tool, I may even launch a complete course on the channel which gives you hands-on on value stream map, because this is one tool which you can't avoid at all. 80% of our projects uses a value stream map. So what you do, so value stream map in a nutshell is a tool which documents your product flow, it documents your returns, it documents your information flow, it documents your performance data, it documents the roles and responsibilities of the different functions within the supply chain. How exciting, right? So value stream mapping can be mapped, then you put in the expectations of the customer and business. If you remember the Kano model, that becomes your voice of customer. What business needs, that becomes your voice of business. So once you have the value stream map, the voice of customer and voice of business is put as a constraint, and then the value stream can show you the bottlenecks, and you also do risk analysis and start with the debottlenecking. This is such an exciting activity, and this is the time to do it. So people who are trying to get into consulting, please make sure you learn all these nuances and tools and get into a consulting. This is the time. Next 5 years is going to be an exciting time or building a career in supply chain. Last one, digitalization of supply chain. I'll give you two important things. Even if you talk a simple tool like ERP, just because it worked on one organization, it's no mandatory that it will work on any organization. No. So every digitalization or technology should have a return on investment done. That means you need to know what is the gap. You should know which technology can fix the gap, at what cost, and what is the value proportion. Very, very important. Okay, because digitalization is what the buzzword you are going to hear it. The digitalization for a startup, the digitalization for a SME, a digitalization for a MNC is completely different. You can never generalize this. Okay, you can't go and talk about blockchain and IoT to an SME. It's not possible. So you should know all these different technologies and benefits available in the market. But if you focus on problem solving, start from the process. What is the issue of the business? Quantify that. Find out what is the best way to solve the problem, which gives you the return. Please take this up, because this is absolutely important in supply chain. One last word here. Learning from mistake is great. I always tell, learning from mistakes in supply chain comes with a huge cost. And specifically, if you're working on a full-time job, think about you made a bad warehousing decision, for example. It led to a 1 crore loss to the company. Can you go to your boss and tell, boss, you know what, I've lost 1 crore, but you know what, I've learned a lot. How it will be, how your boss will react to it. So please use your analytical capability, simulation and modeling skills to simulate your solutions before you take it up for implementation. So analytic skills is very, very important, along with your problem skills and functional knowledge to be successful in supply chain. So that's it from my side. One last slide, key to success. So the key to success, let me quickly summarize what and all we have seen. First and foremost thing, know your customers. Kano model is a great tool. If you're interested in other tools, other survey methods, other ways to understand customers, you can reach me separately. But Kano is one very, very powerful tool. Supply chain aligned with voice of customer and voice of business, you can't ignore value stream mapping. You want to get into process excellence or into a consulting role, please master the tool before you sit for your interviews. You don't need to even do any certifications. Learn, get hands-on on this tool. Okay, there are 2 case studies which is already available in Supply Chain Way channel where you can use value stream map, just for your information. Third one, analytics to quantify the uncertainty. There are a lot of uncertainties in supply chain. Who is going to quantify the best way is going to be the winner in terms of supply chain. I'm talking about the supply chain standpoint. So if you are an analytics person, please go ahead and make sure you learn the complete nuances. Don't stop with just analytics. Know the functional side of it. Why functional side is important? You need to go and watch the supply chain analytics as a career related video on the channel, which has more points. With this context today, analytics is very, very crucial within the supply chain to give that competitive edge for the organization. Then supply chain optimization, the most exciting area within supply chain. So this is the time most of the companies are revisiting their supply chain, and there are tremendous opportunities in terms of optimization. Last one, working as a team. No matter whatever the skills you have, no matter what all the tools you know, if you couldn't lead a team or if you couldn't work as a part of a team, it is very, very difficult. So if you are planning to get into managerial roles, leadership roles, please work on the soft skill of to lead bigger teams towards a common goal. Okay, so that's it from my side. Thank you so much for listening. I'm not sure whether it is a very boring session, because I couldn't see any of the faces to analyze whether it was a good session. So let's see. From the questions, I will understand whether it's a good session or not. Up to you guys to ask any questions you may have.
We have Purval who has a question, followed by Dhanesh. Purval, you can ask.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Purval.
So basically, I had three questions, two relating to what was in the slides, and one which is of my personal interest.
Okay,
So I'll ask you the first question.
sure.
When you say that today having the inventory gives you competitive edge,
Mm.
and just in time is going out of fashion, but how do you think once the things normalize, do you see the trend getting back to using just in time? As I understand, inventory is a cost.
Okay. No, I'll tell you why. Take that. So when I say no, more and more customer behavior is moving towards I want it now. There are one thing like you're completely or offline is inventory based. It is always made to stock, right? If you know the complete product postponement strategy, but even take in terms of online, more and more now people want it immediately, right? Even pre-COVID we talked about same day delivery, right? So what is happening, more and more customers are wanting the product immediately. So what is going to happen? You need to keep the stock. There is no other option. So I don't see things going back, because pre-COVID itself, inventory is always a competitive edge. Excess inventory is a way. So I see more and more inventory is going to play a much more bigger role than now in terms of the overall supply chain.
Thank you. The next question is about the analytics. We understand analytics use the historical data to come with a pattern to predict. But with the COVID, I think the whole historical data becomes absolute in the current time. So, how do you think how easy it is to predict, and is it even accurate enough?
Okay. First thing, I'm really glad you use the word predict, because unfortunately, currently analytics means it is now related to dashboards and colorful dashboards. Now, at least glad you put it as prediction. There is, without prediction, analytics is nothing. Second thing, one point you just talked about, you said analytics uses the past data, right? It not always
Yes.
the case. Most of the people think it is always the past data. Now that is where, if you see the analytics roles, again I would ask you to go and watch that video, but I'll give you the gist of it here. There are multiple roles within here. Now analytics should work closely with your research. Okay, for example, when demand forecasting's job is to estimate what the customer would want and what the customer will buy, there as well analytics is playing a role. So there you don't have a proven data. Though there is a proven data, you can't completely piggyback on your proven data. That's the reason, more and more, if you're starting to gather information from the market and use analytics there, that is a great competitive edge to the organization. Having said that, still you'll use your past data. I'm not telling no, but there should be a leverage on your predictive analytics using the market data as well. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you. And the last one is about the blockchain. A blockchain is currently being used in luxury industry to counter the counterfeits. So this was a question actually posed in other guest lecture, that
Mm-hmm.
how do we assure that the blockchain, even if we are able to kind of mimic from where the product is coming,
Mm.
we know that the product is not a counterfeit. So how do you think blockchain gets into the
No.
picture over
So
here?
let me put this way. Okay, now mostly what happens now, that there's some of the buzzwords when it's coming: blockchain, IoT, Industry 4. Little bit, it is basically the same thing which exited before. Will get a nice multiple layers of sugar coats, make it little fancy, and then they will come up with the word. So don't get, for example, IoT. Pick up what are all the things inside an IoT. It already existed decades before. We just made everything together. So what I'm trying to say is, the business case what you just said, we can solve it without a blockchain. Okay, so
Okay.
without derailing the current topic, blockchain is nothing. This is a common ledger. Think about, you are having a Google sheet shared between you and one of your project mate who shared a lot of data, so that you no need to update it. The logic remains the same. It becomes into a kind of a magic box, because people started using about blockchain is great. Nothing. This is the crux of it. But by the volume of data, by the number of users, by the type of document, by the security, it becomes complex. As simple as that. But so don't get carried away by thing. If you sit with me and talk about blockchain and IoT on a coffee, in 30 minutes you will tell, oh, that's it. This is how your this would be. Okay, so don't get carried away. I'll give you one more example. Most of the blockchain conference people will go, okay, and come back. You ask them, how is the conference? Yeah, it's fantastic. What is blockchain? That's it. They will be thinking. That is how the quality of blockchains are. So let's probably catch up on a coffee.
I would definitely love to do that. Thank you so much, Alvis.
Yep.
Ganesh, you can ask a question.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for such an insightful session and good evening. So I had a question on blockchain as well, but the second question I had was, since you also emphasized that due to COVID, most of the offline businesses are also planning to shift to online or to Omni Channel. So how does a small business cater to that? Because not every one of them will have such resources. So is there any easy way to do that?
See,
That
now
doesn't cost much.
yeah. So great. So your blockchain question you have excluded after my answer to the last question, right? Okay, good. So now
Yes, sir.
answering your second question. Now, even you just said a problem statement, right? The good thing about our country, our entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurship mind will think about this question much advanced. Now, today, if I have a product, assume I have a pen on my hand. Assume I know up to manufacturing this pen. I don't know how to brand it. I don't know how to pack it. I don't know how to distribute it. I don't know how to sell it online. I don't know how to have my website. You don't need to worry at all. It takes just 1 week to onboard in Amazon. It just takes only few days to get a logistics partner enrolled. Okay, that's it. It's everything is there in terms of you. If you have a product, you want to distribute it, you can piggyback on a lot of existing things at a cost, obviously. So if you're doing your go-to-market strategy effectively, you have everything available. So SMEs no need to worry at all. Take an example of Hesol Consulting. We work with SMEs on consulting space. Can you believe it? Previously, it is like consulting means you always talked about the big five consulting. They can't even, SMEs can't even look at that, the cost in which it is offered, right? But now when we started, we found that as an issue and we operate with startups and SMEs, same solution. You understood my point? Same way, your distribution, supply chain, logistics, everywhere you have service providers ready to take your supply chain. The only catch here is which one, why, how much to use. This is part of your go-to-market strategy. Okay, thank you, Dinesh.
Even I would love to join that conversation with you.
Yes, definitely. Okay, any more questions?
The next question is by Soumya Dev Mandal.
Hi, sir. I'm Soumya. So I just wanted to know that since you are talking about supply chains, I just wanted to know that since during this coronavirus, after the coronavirus pandemic started, what I assume till now is that supply chains is mainly human interaction between different parties and collaborating with each other for a smoother delivery of products and services. Now, what I want to know is, now that our main thing that I've stopped, that is human interaction, how effective is the whole the process on the digital media and telecommunications?
Okay. So that interaction which you talked about in terms of people, Soumyadip, the only difference is it is not the people, it is actually the product. Okay. And what you meant by people, why people come together to share information. So
Yeah.
only thing which you can't avoid is the physical flow of product, but you can easily digitalize the flow of information, and for that a little additional price is required, and that is the change which is coming. Even smaller players are ready to put that money to keep it, because now customers want that kind of a very dynamic information available. Okay, so that social distancing, whatever you talked about, that impact could be in kind of a warehouse or a facility kind of thing, where you need to come together. Assume you have a traditional push type of manufacturing. You all come together, work on. So those kind of things are the only thing. But if you see as a overall supply chain, what are the things moves is your product, your information, and your cash. So apart from your product, which cannot be made virtual, but your information and cash can be made digitalized, which is what is happening, which is what will happen in the coming days as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
So also one more thing I just wanted to ask that, so you spoke about blockchains, right?
Mm-hmm.
A while back. Like, did you? I mean, I was focused, but I did not really understand. But were you talking about the decentralization aspect of a blockchain and how supply chain management is exactly that?
Okay, so see, blockchain is a new concept, same like the other things whatever we are talking about, artificial intelligence. We will then in so all these things whatever you're talking about, this will make your process much more efficient. Okay, but it comes at a cost. Now, for example, as we talk now, Maersk is working on a blockchain enabled freight forwarding platform called TradeLens. Okay, you can go and read about that. Okay, what is the TradeLens, etc. But will that apply to a small time last mile service provider which is there in somewhere in the nook and corner of India? It's not. So it doesn't apply to him. But that person will get impacted if someone is coming and just taking away the entire thing, streamlining the logistics. Then it becomes a problem. But in that way also, in a country like India, you can't just ignore all the players, because like now if you take the overall logistics, any new initiative comes in, even a logistics provider owning just 8 vehicles, 10 vehicles, everyone will get included. Okay, so this is like similar thing we talked about this Uber and Olas, right? They came in and took away this entire thing, but that's fine. But none of the drivers are left behind. Everyone is kept inclusive, and then the entire industry gets streamlined. I think that is what will happen.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, sir. Thanks
Okay.
for the insights. And I'll also like to meet you sometimes and sit for a coffee.
Oh, okay, no problem. So we can make it like coffee session with the entire batch. Not a problem. My pleasure.
If you are actually serious about this, we can plan this out.
We will. Yes, I won't tell anything which I'm not serious about.
All right, sir.
Okay,
Thanks.
perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Any other questions?
We would definitely love another coffee session. So we have questions from Amol and Aman.
Please.
So Amol, you can.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the insightful session. One question which I would like to ask you is about, you talked about global sourcing.
Mm-hmm.
So, in these times, how do companies strike a balance between local sourcing and global sourcing? So is it, I did not get what you talked about exactly. Is it global sourcing with respect to the number of companies who source us, or with respect to the regions or something?
Got it.
Just
okay.
a clarity on that.
Understood. So what I meant by global sourcing, assume you are a manufacturer, okay? Assume the same pen we will take in. Okay. Now, if you are a manufacturer of this pen, assume for this cap, you actually get it in the same way how the cap looks like from a single source. Now, if you're having a single source and it's one of your very, very key raw material within your process, you're actually putting in a lot of, it's kind of a monopoly on that one. So that is what we talked about, alternate sourcing. Okay, so that dependency has to go off, which is quite obvious. If you talk about sourcing, obviously you should, some of all your key raw materials, right, you should have a backup, unless that raw material itself is a monopoly, only one player can provide it. Okay, so that is what I talked about. Second thing, whenever you are sourcing your raw material, what are the things you are talking about? You are going to talk about your quality of material and the cost of buying, right? These are the two things. Assume you are getting a quality and you are getting it in India itself, you will go out and buy it. Why you have to spend additional cost of taking inside, which will actually increase your overall COPQ itself will get increased. Your COGS itself will get increased. So you won't do that. Problem is, on products which are not available in India. Now, previously, there are only, you look at only one way. This is the source. No, not like that. With the emerging hubs, Vietnam showing the way. Vietnam, just read about the emerging manufacturing hubs. Just Google it. See the countries which are coming in and see the way they are posing a quality product, same quality products at a much better price with much relaxed business terms. So these are the options you need to look for. Not just that, as an overall supply chain, as a global supply chain, if you're seeing, moment a new manufacturing hub comes in, a new logistics lane comes in, because products are going to move in and out. So that becomes a boon for the logistics providers as well. Moment logistics picks up, the warehousing picks up. Moment warehousing picks up, lot of additional services picks up. Moment services pick up, you will get lot of additional accessories like your analytics and tools and so like that, the entire supply chain will get a boost because of that. So that was the crux of the message what I have given you. Okay, perfect. Next question, please.
Aman.
Yeah. So hi Alvis.
Hello.
First of all, a very insightful session.
Thank you.
The example of iPhones versus biryani definitely would stay
Yes.
throughout a life. So I have two questions.
Mhm.
Both are linked to each other.
Okay.
First is, how do you optimize the storage capacity versus
Mhm.
the actual fulfillment?
Okay.
Talking about automobiles
Mm.
sector, they made certain cars in parts, but comes COVID, demand falls and ultimately losses. Linking this to the emergence of 3PL and a possible 4PL group of companies.
Mhm.
So how do you relate these
Okay.
two questions?
So you are talking about inventory on FG side, or you're talking about raw materials? Can you just little bit specify that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So towards the warehousing storage cost, you
Mm.
make parts, you store things, you forecast demand,
Mm.
but definitely the forecasting part
Okay.
is not prepared for a pandemic,
Understood.
as you mentioned.
So let's talk about few industries which are completely different. Now talk about automotive, which is one of the toughest. It's almost like 3,500 to 4,000 parts get into one automobile, right? Be it a passenger vehicle or a commercial vehicle. Now, traditionally, if you see all the years, these businesses hold a brand, specifically in our country and even abroad. Automotive sector means it sets benchmarks. There are a lot of standards like MMOG, there are global distribution standards, there are a lot of standards, and even within the facility there are a lot of standards. What that means is, it is a prestige to be a supplier. So I'm going to explain this in two ways, RM and FG. Okay, now this side on upwards of your supply chain, it is always is one-sided. The manufacturer calls the shot, okay, telling, hey, you need to keep this, no matter, we talked about SNOP and etc. Whatever shortfalls within this, it is actually given to the supplier, telling, hey, you need to provide this. Yes, I have given you this. Now there is a up, there is a low. Completely, who is going to feel the pinch is the supplier. That's the reason if you see most of the suppliers, they consider this as a brand. Using this, they work on other sectors where they will make much higher margins. Okay, this is on a overall industry level. So here it's always pushes towards the supplier. Now here as well, between the raw material and to the manufacturing assembly line, in between, this is called manufacturing logistics. Here as well, you need to optimize your inventory. In what way? The products which are kept near to the line, it is called line side storage, and the raw material which is not just in time, which is stored inside the facility, is called the manufacturing warehouse. In all these things, you have to scientifically arrive at the recommended storage quantity. The reference which I have drawn, the two lines, you need to use analytics, and there are so many other methods that again it's a separate topic altogether. We need to estimate that. This is one side of it. Second side of it, which you are doing a make to stock basis a demand forecast. So your demand forecast failed. Either it went more or less. In the pandemic, it became less. The impact is going to be not directly just on the dealers, because dealers have a big say in terms of distribution. If you leave your dealer unhappy, it is going to hurt the business. So what is going to happen is then the manufacturer is going to feel a pinch. That's the reason automotive industry, you see everywhere, they will have lot of yard spaces because this industry is prone for this up and down. Okay, you're getting my point. So that FG planning and etc., it's completely because of the uncertainty on your demand, and that pinch will directly come on your manufacturer. But you know what's the good thing on your automotive? When it picks up, your FG goes away in no time, and you start following up for your raw material. This is how this industry is. Completely contrasting to this or other inventories, other businesses, which is like a retail or an FMCG and etc. So each industry has their own flavor and complexity of inventory planning. I hope that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I think we don't have any more questions.
Okay.
So I would like Sandeep sir, if you could give us a few parting words.
Okay. So I think it was a wonderful session, Alvis.
Thanks so much.
I think the students got the full exposure into the logistics and supply chain domain. Based on your experience and your understanding of the domain, I'm sure the students must be having a lot of takeaways. And one thing I can assure you is that a lot of students would be connecting with you to take the discussions ahead.
Definitely.
So thank you very much for the wonderful session. We look forward to have many more such sessions from your side. And, we wish you all the best. And thank you once again for sparing your time to address the students.
Sure. Thank you so much. Pleasure. And Nidhi, thank you so much for making this happen. And thanks to all the 70 plus participants for accommodating another lecture on a long day. Hope you'll be connected. Feel free to reach me anytime with any questions on supply chain. Okay. Thank you so much. All the best to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.